Like you're watching Filibusted. I've got my co-host with me today. And the truth behind the dreaded mark of the beast has been heavily theorized over the years. Today, I'm sharing information about a cryptocurrency system I am convinced will be tied to the actual mark itself. Now, let me give my disclaimer. I am currently convinced of this, but it's possible my opinion will change in the future with changes in technology, etc. This is not a prophecy or a future prediction necessarily. This is a theory, but I think it's very compelling, and I think it may shock you to hear what I'm about to share. So I'm going to share this theory. I'm going to let my co-hosts share their thoughts on it, and then we're going to get into this topic a little deeper of what is the mark of the beast, and are we seeing the clues out there today? So I'm going to start. I'm going to share a little thesis, and I'm going to start with this point here. Money is moving towards digital currency, whether centralized or decentralized. We're not sure exactly what it's all going to look like. Obviously, probably leaning towards more decentralized. This article was released today. Traditional money has 2 to 3 years left. New research claims as Asia and MENA lead a $2 trillion digital currency shift. They think in about 36 months, according to this research, that normal currency is going to be, physical currency is going to be largely obsolete.
Not
so
38.
Very interesting. That, you know, you can push back against that. This is just one of the sources out there, right? But the truth is the world is trying to figure out what digital currency is going to look like in the long run. That's why we've got all these different systems popping up, all these different cryptocurrencies. Here's another thought. With the rise of crypto hacking, people can lose millions or billions just like that, right? We've seen the news. Here's an article, crypto hacking incident statistics 2025. They got a lot of list of things that have happened over the last several years, but momentum accelerated in 2025. By July 17th, 2025, stolen funds had already reached 2.17 billion, essentially matching the entire 2024 total, with half the year still remaining. And so we are constantly pushing the needle when it comes to crypto security because it's a severe problem, right? So one of the ways that current data centers have tried to fight the problem of hackers and protect people's information, and in this case, protect people's money, digital assets. These are internet infrastructure service providers, is that they have provided random keys that are needed in order to access the information. So this may be it may feel like I'm going on a tangent here, but it ties in. A major Cloudflare outage took down large parts of the internet. X, ChatGPT, and more were affected, but all are recovered now. Y'all probably saw this on the news. This was from 2 days ago. A large part of the internet went down because Cloudflare is one of these internet infrastructure service providers that, you know, uses different security measures to try to increase their security over all the information they store. And they went down, and many people have never seen this. Some people may have seen this before. One of the measures that they use is lava lamps. So this may shock you to learn this. This is Tom Scott. He did this video 8 years ago, but from the research I could find, it seems like they're still using this technology to try to encrypt data and to make it random. So the problem with, and I can just kind of click through here and show y'all what this looks like. This is a wall of lava lamps that they have. And this is actually at the Cloudflare headquarters. The same company that went down 2 days ago is at their headquarters in San Francisco. And this is what they call the entropy wall. So the reason they have this is because computers are actually very, very, they're not very good at making things actually random, because a code can only synthesize randomness. It can't actually just make up something random, right? And so if you could hack into the code, or you could understand the program that's synthesizing the randomness, you could effectually predict the keys that it comes up with to encrypt your data. So this is how they help keep the internet secure, is that they actually film these lava lamps with a live stream camera, and it is producing, the lava itself is producing random imagery, and it's changing the image on the screen. And so they convert that image that's constantly randomly changing into data, and then they use that random sequence of data to create a random key, passkey, to get into the information. And so they are constantly able to update the passkeys at intervals using this random data. There's
Is
other
this serious?
This is real. This is what they really
I
do.
thought this was like somebody's high school experiment they had to show at the lab when all the judges come around.
These are the best of the best in the world, Ryan. These are the best of the best. And so
I'm surprised that they don't just like walk around the office and have people just call out random numbers to be like, "Hey, I need some random numbers." So I know I'm sure the lava lamp's a lot more.
It's more efficient. Probably. Okay, here's a Reddit post from 2 days ago after Cloudflare went down, where this guy is surmising that they have a second secret wall of lava lamps hidden somewhere in one of their server farms, and that's the one they really get the pictures from, because technically, I guess somebody could sneak in there, set up a camera, and
it's so creative. You just have 2 of them. Oh, that's like the oldest trick in the book.
Exactly. So they're publicly displaying this one, and if you go through the video, you can see this is the guy from Cloudflare. He didn't sneak in here. This is one of their representatives talking about the lava lamp wall behind them, right? And he interviews him. And so there's also examples of there's some other examples in here as well. And if I can find
Thanks
one
for putting on his shirt for the video. Look.
Yeah, I can't find the images, but there's also some of the other data centers use different things like this. Like, for example, they have, like wind chimes hanging from a ceiling, like hundreds of them, and there's wind blowing in. And so then they're always moving. And they have a camera filming that. And so it's always updating the data, right? So there's a necessity for randomness in order for internet security to be high. Okay. That's the point I'm making here, right? Yeah. That's the point.
Less hackable.
So, it's hackable. Yes, it's
less hackable. He's saying
less hackable.
Yeah, yes. not as hackable as the supposedly random generated numbers that a computer can do.
Exactly. Yeah. So here's where it all connects to a theory about the mark of the beast and what that might look like and how it connects to cryptocurrency. Well, cryptocurrency uses a wallet address. Where you have a wallet. It's what is it called, Doug? A cold wallet where you have a solid drive and you have your information stored there, or it's an online cloud. It's on Cloudflare, but it's through a
which
crypto.
By the way, there was a major exchange. The Solodex exchange was down during the Cloudflare outage too. I noticed. I went to check in on stuff and I clicked on Solodex and I was all, oh, I guess not today.
Wow. Oh, yeah, that's crazy. Here's where it connects though. They can identify human beings based on their DNA. It's called DNA profiling. Okay. So think about this in the context of having an address for a crypto wallet. This is a National Library of Medicine, and it's talking about DNA identity testing. The DNA Identification Act, it says, of 1994, authorized the Federal Bureau of Investigation to expand a pilot project into a national DNA database, the Combined DNA Index System, or CODIS. It's a tool for solving violent crimes, right? And that is probably pretty helpful. But it also set up a system, a database of DNA profiling that's run by the government. And modern DNA profiling is actually extremely reliable. Here's an article that kind of breaks it down. 1 in a trillion to 1 in a quintillion for a full profile. So that means like how accurate, how likely are you to be right? 1 in a trillion all the way to 1 in a quintillion that you're exactly right on. So if that's how accurate it is, then you could essentially say the part of your DNA that's not changing is your wallet address, or as close as you can get to it, right? And it would be called your DNA profile. They use STR markers, and these are short tandem repeats. Then they mutate very slowly. So your DNA does mutate, according to science, but it takes a long time, right? And it mutates when you are sick. It mutates when you have something, critical illness, something like that. It mutates for various reasons as you get older. It mutates.
COVID shots,
or from one generation to another, But the SRT markers, which are the ones they use, one of the ones they use for DNA profiling is there's a less than one mutation every 500 to 1,000 generations. So these profiles remain stable throughout a person's life and across generations. It stays the same. So your DNA profile or part of it could be used as a crypto wallet address. No one would be able to access the money except for you, right? Because you're the only one who has the address, right? But what about hackers?
The question is somebody who has your DNA?
Sorry?
What about somebody that has your DNA? I guess I didn't understand. So if somebody takes someone's DNA, they can access it, or how do you?
Well, here's the thing: you can't. Okay, that's a good question. You can't steal somebody's money just because you have their wallet address. Isn't that right, Doug? You can't just take their money just because you have their address.
You cut them and have their blood,
because
That's the address. So that's the marker. That's the identifier, the marker where the address, where the money's located, right? It's
Right.
you are the address. Okay.
There's a string of words that you have to have in order to unlock the wallet if you don't have like the immediate access.
Yeah.
And it's like typically 8 or 12 different random words that you have to put in to open up the wallet if it's not already connected to your biometrics like via your phone. So like for example, when I go to open up an exchange on my phone to see what my crypto is doing, I have it set so that it can just use my face opens it, like just like it opens everything. But if somebody else were to do that, they would have to try to get into my accounts on my exchanges. They would have to have that random 12-word passcode thing that they give you. So if I were to ever lose my access, then I have the backup of that code to get in.
I see how it uses your face. I'm trying to think of how something would use your DNA to unlock. It'd be like, okay, here's the address. And I'd be like, what if I
you just have to
forgot?
cut
I'm like,
yourself every time you log in.
I forgot. That's what I'm saying. Like, I forgot my address.
Well, here's
kind of
Reese.
like you forgot your bank account, and it's like, where did I write it down? And it's like, oh, that's right. It's written down in my DNA. So then, how do I get that? How do I access that to get those?
Yeah,
numbers?
I'm going to connect the dots for you.
Okay.
All right. So what about
your
hackers?
eyeball? That's the answer, right?
If somebody steals your DNA, for example, and they have the address, right? What about hackers? How do you keep them? Well, what are they using for security? They're using randomness, right? Right now, they're using randomness as a type of security. So how do you come up with random keys that you have to get access to the cryptocurrency, to the information? Well, your body actually constantly changes. So I want to say thank you to Layla on X for this thought, this bit of information, this connection point here. Your body activity could be its own layer of security. So your body is constantly changing: heartbeat, pulse, breathing, muscle movement, eye movement, brain activity. It could be constantly generating its own encryption keys and constantly changing them at short intervals based on all of those things. So the only person who would have access to those keys would be the person who's inside the body that's generating the keys.
So all you have to do is install the nanotechnology to monitor yourself 24/7, right?
Boom. Exactly. So you have the technology installed in your body that's monitoring your body, that is creating the keys, that's also giving you access to your own cryptocurrency wallet, which is based on your DNA.
Oh,
so I hear.
Yeah,
so
no one else will have access to that data, I'm sure.
So some people are going to say, no, that's crazy. We're so far from that. Nobody's doing this, right? We're doing some weird stuff. And as soon as we hear a short message from our sponsor, I'm going to share some of the stuff we're already doing with our audience and give y'all a chance to respond as well. Investing can be confusing and scary, but it doesn't have to be. Genesis Gold Group takes the guessing out of the game and guides you on your gold investment journey. We at Filibusted love the genius design of the Prepper Bar, which breaks up into sections, kind of like a chocolate bar. But if you prefer high security insured gold storage, they have that too. And unlike Fort Knox, the gold is actually there, 100% owned by you. So don't wait to get started. Visit filibustedgold.com today for a free investment guide from Genesis Gold Group. So any further responses before I move on and show some of the evidence of what is already coming down the pipeline, these things that people have already been working on over the last several years?
Well, I just think it's interesting because we've all kind of heard like the theory of, putting like nanotech inside your body. Like people were concerned about that with like certain shots, which I don't think certain shots had actual nanotechnology, but they definitely had other things in them. But there was I've seen that as a theory, and but it's interesting the way that you've lined this out, because it actually kind of explains why that would be necessary. It's like, why do I need to, or I guess I've heard it of like, oh, well, you got to have your kind of like your government ID implanted into your arm, right? Or into your hand or into your forehead. And then they can scan it so they know that it's you, because it's embedded into your skin. And so nobody can take it out, so to speak. But this actually is more high tech than that, because this is actually describing something would be monitoring your biometrics essentially and generating numbers based off of them in order to keep your, I'm going to call bank accounts, maybe your accounts that act in the future, in a dystopian future, for instance, could access literally everything. It might be, you might need that number to get back inside your your living pod, that kind of idea. It's like those numbers could be constantly changing based off of your biometrics, and then you have the nanotechnology that's reading it and listing those numbers. But in order for that to work, obviously that means that it has to be in communication with something else. Like that's what Ryan was saying. It's like, who else has that information? It's like, well, you can't just have, well, I have these random numbers. It's like the other part of the system also needs to know, to be like, okay, this is the number now that your body is reading. And so,
right. And we have technology that is technically doing a lot of that already. It's just doing it on the outside. It's called a smartwatch. It's called a Apple Watch. It monitors all these different biometrics at the same time, and it's reading it and it's reporting the data back to you.
The first time this really struck me was what do you get? I get in my truck and it has the GPS thing, and then it gets open, and on Sunday it says it says here, this is where you're probably going. Click here to go. And it was like church, but it only did it on Sunday, so it very quickly can track your that. Just made me realize, wow, that I've only had this truck for like 2 weeks, and it's already or 3 weeks, and it's already guessing where I'm going. I got to turn this off. And so I think this is going to be presented as security. The only way, it's only to health or whatever. But
Ryan, it's going to be presented as something even worse than that, which I'm going to reveal a little later on.
Okay.
It's kind of the twist.
Yeah. So, but that's my point, is
we're
going to have our eyes open.
So much worse than that. Okay.
And the only thing I was going to say too is that it's definitely going to be some sort of transmission happening, where it is not just an access point for you to get into your pod or your whatever. There's going to be information transmitted and other control mechanisms. And anyway, that's what I've
got. Doug, any thoughts from you before we move on?
Yeah, one of the questions that came up in my mind as we were talking about this was, when it comes to DNA, I remembered the whole ancestry.com thing. So my question is now about ownership, because Blackstone, not BlackRock, not to be confused, they're different. Blackstone bought ancestry.com, and now they own the rights to everybody who submitted their DNA for sampling in Ancestry. And so I know that our DNA changes, but is there like a sort of, there's going to have to be some, still some sort of second, what's the word? The two verification system thing, like 2FA, whatever.
Two-step verification.
There's going to have to be that, and something's going to have to be consistent with it, because if DNA changes, then how do we know that, for example, like somebody has not been kidnapped and forced to use their DNA to open up their account? Well, then they're going to have to double check with their 2FA system, which is the essential DNA that doesn't change, that part of your body that doesn't change. Well, who owns that? So who really owns the keys to you then at that point? Is it going to be companies like Blackstone who bought it because you volunteered it years ago? Or I don't know. It's like that starts to get really muddy really quick, but that's where my brain went. I was like, oh man, I don't know about all that. There's some ownership issues going on, is what I'm saying.
Wow.
I do remember when that happened. A lot of people,
and DNA rights.
A lot of people,
we got to add that.
A lot of people were really concerned when Ancestry.com was changing hands, or they went out of business or whatever, because they saw that basically their DNA information was being put up for sale, and they had a small window they could log in and remove their DNA info, so it didn't end up getting sold to this other
part
company.
Of me thinks that was the design in the beginning, and that's why they did all the COVID tests, because they just want the DNA so they can make all these models, and then they have the one theory is that then they can do bioweapons that attack only certain people with certain DNA markers, and they can put it off in a crowd, and only this one person or these two people will be affected by it. That's the kind of bioweapon technology.
Yeah. And the saying in crypto is, if you don't own the keys, you don't own the crypto. So who owns your keys?
Yeah, if it's body based, it'd be very interesting.
Troy, you set this up pretty good. I'm excited.
Hey, I think it gets down all these. I think it gets deeper. It gets worse. Okay.
I'm excited. Let's go.
Let's look at a little evidence of things that are already happening. This article came out yesterday. This new Bitcoin crypto wallet scans your blood vessels and needs 0 passwords. All right. Here's a new crypto wallet that scans your blood vessels. GNOT is a new hardware wallet that uses unique finger vein biometrics. It scans the rhythm of your blood flow and the vascular architecture of your finger to establish a unique signature. A 10,000 unit pre-sale of the Founders Edition wallet at $299 a unit goes live today.
Safety and convenience.
Yeah, I'm glad you already did our sponsor, because you got me nervous there. I was wondering what was coming.
I was about to make a joke, Ryan. Thanks for ruining my joke, that this is our sponsor for today. It's not. It's not our
You
sponsor.
paused too long. I had to jump in.
I might be the only one that thinks this is really cool. If I
think
never
it's
had to
cool.
remember
Yeah.
a password again,
Yeah.
I mean, I understand the concern, but with this one, you're not putting something into your body, right?
It's true.
It's creating a password basically.
Yeah, this is
Based
just
off
the
of-
next step toward
based off
that.
of
Don't worry, Reese. That's coming later.
External. This
You're
is
good
based
for
off of
now.
external measures that you can read, right? And so if you had something like that was like, if I set up all of my passwords, now again, somebody could steal all my stuff by
Wait,
like cutting off my
Does this
hand.
mean?
Right.
Hold
And
on.
then,
Does
like,
this
using
mean?
my hand to
Hold on.
access
But
all
does
my
it mean you have
accounts.
to have a pulse for this to work? So okay. So
Oh, yeah,
don't
good
worry about
call.
the hand thing, Reese. Then
Well, what
You
was
can
that? You have
keep your
to have for it
hand.
to
you
work?
have to have
You
a
have to
pulse.
be
If they cut
alive.
off the hand, it's not going to work. I'm sure
Right.
they'll come up with some.
Oh, you do have to have a pulse for
some
it
way
to
to
work.
pump
Yeah,
blood through a hand. So don't worry about that.
Yeah, they have to have you essentially. You have to be alive to access it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's one step in the process because it is what it is doing is it's using your body's biometrics as a password to get into your money, your system, your
Mhm.
wallet. It's and this just came out yesterday. Like this is on pre-order right now. Okay, so let's actually look at Revelation real quick,
Wow.
and then I want to look at my last piece of evidence. And I think it's kind of crazy. Okay,
I'll just say, Reese, I do agree with you. That is cool, but that would be about the last step that I would take before.
Well,
I'm
like,
like, all right,
I would
no
never
more.
want to put something in my body, and we can talk about. Maybe we can talk about this when we talk about like the body stuff. And
I don't even like fingerprint or face
the-
or eyeball or anything. I would
the
rather
spiritual
you do it, don't you?
memorize passwords.
I don't mind like stuff like fingerprints. For me, that's just like an extra talented, technological.
Send me the
like,
text. I'll
fingerprint.
type it in from my phone. It does it automatically anyway.
This is Revelation 13:16. It says, and he causes all the small and the great, the rich and the poor, and the free and the slaves to be given a mark on their right hands or on their foreheads, and he decrees that no one will be able to buy or sell. So obviously people have traditionally connected that to some sort of implant, chip, or technology, right? Potentially. So except the one who has the mark, either the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for the number is that of a man, and his number is 666. So obviously, Reese, even before we started this episode, you're talking about how people have connected that to a historical figure, potentially. So there's a lot of theories on what that means and what that is, right? Well, this is interesting because of a patent that was applied for by Microsoft. So let's look at Google patents here. So this made the rounds in 2020 when the vaccine was, all over the news and everyone's trying to figure out what to do. Check out the number on this patent. 2020 060606 A1.
Can I say something about the number? That's not randomly assigned. Whoever applied for this,
Really?
I'm pretty sure you get to pick the number you want for the patent.
Well, you can see who applied for it. Microsoft Technology Licensing LLC.
So they chose that number.
They picked the number. Okay, well, what does this do? It's a cryptocurrency system using body activity data. So in 2020, this made the rounds because people said this was patented last year. It has to do with vaccines. Everybody, be aware. And a lot of articles came out basically, quote unquote, debunking it. But what they were really doing was they were disconnecting it from the vaccines themselves. But this actually exists. This was a real applied for patent. Now, technically, the status is ceased at the moment, right? In 2025, that's the status of it. But the human body activity, this is the abstract. The human body activity associated with a task provided to a user may be used in a mining process of a cryptocurrency system. So essentially, it is a cryptocurrency mining process using your body's activity. And so, what is it? You're monitoring your body, and it's technically using that data to mine for a cryptocurrency. Now, they also debunk this and saying, so here's an article here that talks about it. And it essentially, but it says, here's a quote from the article. It says, it only proves that Microsoft is thinking about how to implement an interaction between cryptocurrency and humans. And moreover, that it is also willing to find out in a way that it is fairly standard for an innovative company, whether it is possible to obtain a patent that would protect a technical achievement that allows this interaction. So that's their synopsis of this patent, right? This application for a patent. So it did not talk about microchips, but obviously a system like this, as we've said, could easily be combined with a microchip that, like a smartwatch inside your body or whatever, that is like scanning your biometrics and all that kind of stuff. Here's my last thought, or I'm going to save it. What do y'all think about this? And then I'll share my last thought on what the urgency factor is here.
Well, there's another addition to the number at the end there. If you look at it, it's got the A1. So technically, this is 666, which when you add the 1, it becomes 67, which is the actual mark of the beast.
I see what you did there.
I was just gonna say
Dumb joke, sorry.
was not able to confirm that. I heard somewhere that you choose the number. I was not able to confirm that, so I don't know if that's true. That may not.
I
be
don't
true,
know
but-
what the 6-7 meme is, but I know that's a meme going around, and I don't want to know.
Yeah, that
You,
was
you
over.
don't have
I didn't get
children,
that
is
one.
why.
I don't have. That's true. I don't have children, so that must be a young age meme right now.
Yes, it is, unfortunately.
I think my child is our son is probably below the age where he's coming up with memes and seeing memes. So I also did not get that.
Yeah.
But no, I think this is I mean, it's fascinating. I just think that it sounds crazy when we talk about this stuff, and then you pull up legitimate things like this where it's just like, wow, this is already way further ahead than I thought. And then you see all these other things coming up at the same time, and it's just like, yeah, time to get informed and yeah, go start packing your food and getting extra water. You know, whatever you need to do, man. Get off the grid.
I mean, I kind of look at it this way. Like, you either have to, when it comes to stuff like this, you either have to go one way or the other. We're coming to a point where there's no middle ground. And so you either have to do that, like literally pack up and take off, or you have to try to get so far ahead of this curve that you are in a position where you're not implicated by it. So like, what I mean by that is, one of the biggest connections that we're making right here is crypto. Well, obviously we're going to connect the digital currency crypto world with this. And so if you can get ahead before they start implementing this, before it becomes mandatory, and you can leverage that wealth to make it so that you can kind of sidestep what's coming down the pipeline, that's the other position to go. And that's kind of like, I don't know, I'm hoping that there's an angle on that end, because I don't want to be part of the system, but I also am not prepared to go off grid either. So like, how do you got to pivot from one to the other, and we've only got a short amount of time before it becomes something mandatory.
Well, and I will say that, you know, we've seen other phones come on the market that don't allow apps to take your data and resell it. And so it could be there's also parallel economies, you know, that could be coming up at the same time. But maybe, yeah, I don't know. Better get working on those though, Doug. You know, because
so
can I insert a spiritual connection, Troy, or maybe yours is spiritual?
No, absolutely, because my urgency factor is not spiritual.
Yeah, well, so I mean, my take, of course, I'm not going to talk about what the mark of the beast could potentially be. I do think it's interesting that I do think it's very likely that it's going to be physically body related, and this is why. Like, so a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people think that the talking about the mark of the beast could have been talking about the Emperor Nero, which I could get into more later if we have time. But a lot of people think it was like a both and thing of like the Revelation was talking about things that were happening at the time that the book of Revelation was written in the 1st century that had to do with Rome and Rome's persecution of Christians, which was immense. The persecution of Christians, specifically the Emperor Nero, was absolutely off the walls. Nero had money printed where on it said that he was the savior of the world. That was, and you had to basically worship him to buy, sell, or trade. And Christians were getting killed left, right, and center because they weren't, bowing the knee to the Emperor Nero. And that is, whether you think that was the beast system or like the final one, and there's not a future one, that is a beast system obviously occurring. But back then they did not have the technology to make it more than just money with your face, with the emperor's face printed on it that says, Emperor Nero, savior of the world, or, and that kind of thing. But what they did have, what they've always had in the past, is temple worship that involves the body, the human body, and doing things with your body that you're not supposed to do. That gives, where you're consciously giving ownership of your body to other deities, right? And so I'm trying to bring this in and connect this into the future. I do think in where we're at right now, with the world not being the way that it was back then in the 1st century, it seems like a lot of the things when it comes to the kind of like defiling or like giving ownership of your body to other things, a lot of it is becoming technological. A lot of it is like this, you could see this kind of spiritual technological joining together. But again, I think every legitimate biblical scholar would say that from what they can tell, the mark of the beast is not something that you can be tricked into taking.
Yeah, it includes worship. It will include worship. Yeah.
Right. The
It's not gonna be an
point is,
accident.
it includes worship. It includes the saying
An
of, I am
allegiance
taking
and-
on this person's name, this deity's name, this system's name as like they own me. My allegiance is to them. It's an full on worship. Like, I'm not worshiping God. I am worshiping this person, this deity, this system, which could very well include a real physical, object or thing or whatever that's attached to your body, whatever. But I make that point about the body because you ultimately get to decide what you do with your body in the case of worship. If something's forced on you, then that's not worship. And so I think we already had some people putting in the comments about, like, can you be tricked into taking the mark of the beast? And I would say no, it has to be a true act of worship, because then later you have the mark, the seal of God, or the mark of God, which is talked about in Revelation 7, 2 and 3, where it talks about sealing, the people that are for God. And people never, it says, do not harm the earth or the sea or the trees until we have sealed the bondservants of God on their foreheads. So it talks about sealing on their foreheads, and there's some symbolism there you can find in the Bible, but most people don't think that's literal. Most people are like, well, is God going to have an actual seal on my forehead? Probably not. It's probably symbolic of something that would be like worship, like your mind is the Lord's or whatever that would be. I'm just bringing that in there because as far as the get ready, this thing's going to happen. Like, I mean, yeah, in some ways we can prepare and we can get ready, but in other ways it's more of a spiritual, like, what am I going to do with my heart and my body when the time comes where someone's saying, hey, offer your allegiance to this thing or that thing. It's like, well, no, my body belongs to the Lord. So
and I would say this, like, it's the same thing if you're going to be in a situation in grade school or high school and somebody offers you drugs. Like, you got to make that decision before you're in that situation, and so that's the thing here is, what's your allegiance, like, and what are you willing to give up, and what are you willing to, because when it comes to that point, like, it will be a impossible situation, and it may be choosing between life and death, and so or certain death. So that's just kind of like, it's not going to be this like, what am I getting, like that's not what it will be. But I also think
and to be clear, like, my connection to the first century Christians, like, when they chose no, they were burned alive, like that. I mean, and I'm so, to be clear, when I'm saying you will have a choice, the choice literally may be, no, I'm not going to do this, so therefore I will be martyred. That might be your choice,
right?
But I'm just saying that you will have
isn't
a
the choice actually that they're just like basically banished? I thought that was you're just,
well, that's why I said certain death, whether it's like them actually inflicting the death or it's the person's going to go off. But in Revelation 13, it does say that they refuse to worship the image, will be killed. So
some of them, Doug, I think Revelation says both. Like, part of it is there's no buying and selling in the system, and it says others will be killed. So I think there's going to be a mix. But Reese, I think that's a brilliant point. Yeah, I also agree with you in saying that, no, I don't think you're going to be able to be tricked into taking the mark of the beast. And that's why in 2020, although there were a lot of concerns raised and issues with everything that was going on, that was something that was, weighed pretty heavy on my heart, was just that idea that, no, we're not going to be tricked into, rejecting God, rejecting Jesus, right? Like, we're not going to be tricked into that. Like,
but I do think people can be conditioned into it and then make a conscious decision that's not as big of a deal to them, perhaps.
Right. But what Reese is saying is, ultimately the mark itself is going to be tied directly to a conscious decision to worship something other than God, not just, do I use this smartwatch or not? It's not just I accidentally bought an Android instead of an Apple, and Apple was the way to go. And, and now I'm kicked out of the Garden of Eden.
I do want to say, though, it's most likely probably not going to be like worship this red dragon with horns. It's going to be like something like, if you look at the New Age people, like, they have an explanation for the rapture. They think that is something else, and it's going to be more of a a positive thing that people are spinning. It's not like, and then the flip will happen. But
here's a thought that, and maybe I'm going to go too deep here. I don't know. If I do, I'm sorry. Just don't follow me down the rabbit hole. But me and our producer earlier today were talking about the idea of free will, right? And all through Scripture, people are able to be redeemed. Like, no matter how dark they go, no matter how deep they go, no matter how evil they become, the redemption is possible except for a select few. And then the two cases are that you have the Nephilim, and a lot of scholars would say they were unredeemable. Like some people would say that in Genesis, right? And then you also have those who take the mark in Revelation. And so some people theorize that there's some sort of maybe a DNA change, maybe something like that that's happening. But in my mind, it's like, okay, when do you stop being redeemable as a human being? Well, it's when you're dead, when you are no longer there. You're no longer, your spirit's no longer there. And so what if it's a case of I do combine with an AI system or something in my brain, you know, with this chip or whatever it is, and now I'm actually not there anymore. I have no more free will. It's as if I'm gone and my body's being used by something, by another entity, right? Like that could be, it could be the same. They could be unredeemable in the sense that they're not there. They can't even make that choice anymore, because as long as we have free will, as long as we have a choice, we can choose Jesus, right? And so I think that is a plausible theory. And I'm not saying that's the way it is. Maybe it's different than that, but
I have a great connection to that, Troy, with the number 666 potentially talking about the Nephilim. This is from I don't know if anyone's heard of Bede. He was a famous monk from the 700s. He wrote a commentary on Revelation. I was looking up the potential, just different things that people have said the 666 could mean. Like I said before, there's many people that think the number 666 represented through gematria. Is that how you say it? Gematria? It's
gematria, but
gematria. What you do is Hebrew gematria is you take the first. It's like, imagine the first 10 letters of the Hebrew alphabet and then assign them numbers 1 through 10. So you just number all the alphabet. And then if you have something in like Greek, then you have to transliterate it or translate it to Hebrew, and then you can do it. And then you can do the gematria thing. So people have done gematria with different languages and things with like the 666. But Bede, he was a famous monk in the 700s. He in his commentary on Revelation, he hypothesized and connected the number 666 to the Greek word titan, which also means giants, titans, or giants.
Yeah.
And that was, at that time, that was a common way to talk about like the Nephilim stuff, which we've talked about before, the whole like Genesis 6 and the Nephilim and the idea of like a spiritual
the Greek mythology stuff is the story of the fallen angels, and
because the Titans and in Greek mythology, that's their version of the fallen angels. That's their retelling of the Genesis 6. Like, because every ancient culture has their retelling of the day the gods came down and had kids with humans and created giants and yada yada.
Genesis 6-7, by the way, that's where that story starts.
Say what?
Genesis 6-7.
Stop saying that.
Stop saying that.
Anyways, so Bede, he connect. I'm not saying that's what it is.
It's interesting.
But he connected those together, specifically the number 666 and Titans, giants, Nephilim. So I thought that was interesting.
So I would just, I think we should go down that rabbit hole. I don't know how much time we have, but I just to say, like, I definitely think there is a case for that, and there may be a tie to like, hey, immortality, or upload your consciousness, or all like, hey, then you can live forever, or all this. It's basically a copy. It's a copy of what God offers through Jesus Christ. A copy, a deceitful, perverted alternative, which is not the real thing. It's a deceitful, and it leads to separation from God and eternally. But there is already technology being developed that you not only can read brainwaves, but also write to brainwaves. So it's read and write. So it's two-way. So putting thoughts and I mean, that's like University of Pennsylvania. I saw Columbia. Like, there's legitimate technologies that are probably further developed than we really know, but that is a thing. It's not like some future thing. It's like happening now with research. And of course,
here's a theory.
There may be,
So I'm going to push this a little further down the rabbit hole. I haven't got to the urgency factor yet. Why is everybody going to buy into this? I'm still going to get to that. Okay. Why is everyone going to go for it?
Oh, go for it.
I've got
I'm not going to do that yet, because we're still looking at like, okay, what might be happening, around that time? What might the mark look like? Well, there is there's a movement that says sometime in end times, the Ark of the Covenant is going to resurface, and people are going to, like, that's going to come back, things like that from the Old Testament. And I'm like, there's some good ideas there, right? Here, let me propose this, okay? There is actually something in the Bible that tells us that people could live forever. And what if the beast or the Antichrist in Revelation gets a hold of that, turns it into a serum? And this sounds like a comic book, turns it into something that you do take, like a vaccine, and they say, hey, you will become immortal if you take this. But here's the problem with that. So I'm going to show y'all where it is. Genesis 3:22. Then the Lord God said, behold, the man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil, and now he might reach out with his hand and take fruit also from the tree of life and eat and live forever. So why did God banish Adam and Eve from the garden? It's so that they wouldn't go back and eat from the tree of life and live forever in a fallen state.
Yeah.
It would have been immortally unredeemable.
Can you look at Revelation 9:6 when you got time?
So
finish your thing, but it's Revelation 9:6.
Oh, Revelation 9:6.
Revelation.
So yeah. So the idea is, and obviously there was an angel set to guard the garden so nobody could come in. What if part of the book of Revelation is that angel being removed, and suddenly the Antichrist or the beast has access to this and says, hey, y'all want to live forever? You don't need to follow God. You can follow me, and I've got access to it. And I can, and they are permanently, when you take the mark, you're, whatever it may look like, a shot, a serum, whatever, you're permanently stuck in an unredeemable state. And that would connect to the idea of being permanently unredeemable.
Press enter. My wife, I got to give credit to my wife for pointing this one out to me. And in those days, people will seek death and will not find it. They will long to die, and death will flee from them. I just say that came to mind for me. But
wow, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, there were anybody trying to connect that before to the technology stuff, because that does seem like it could connect to what y'all are talking about with the some of the technocrats are trying to do, which is get to immortality via technology, which would be
which is a perverted fake version of it that is
right.
But I hadn't heard it connected to the irredeemable portion of it. I'm gonna have to go back and watch this. This is that's something to think about.
Well, I mean, that's what it's describing right here. You're right, Ryan. That's exactly, it's describing people that will seek death and will not find it. They can't die for some reason. And yet, obviously they've rejected God.
Were you going to talk about Neuralink at all?
Not really, not beyond what we've said so far, but you can't. Well, let me share my urgency factor, and then I'll let you take that, Doug, if you want. Sure. So here's what I'm thinking when it comes to the cryptocurrency thing. And I'm just going to throw this out there. Why would people be on board to take this, if it was tied to cryptocurrency? Well, what is the secret to success in cryptocurrency? A lot of the time, you hear so many people say, if I had just thrown $1,000 into Bitcoin back in 2013, I would be a millionaire right now, right?
Right.
It's getting in as fast as possible. So if there was any element to being the first one in the pool, your cryptocurrency that your body is mining is worth the most. Then it's like the faster you get in, the higher chance you have of being a trillionaire, being a billionaire, being a millionaire.
Wow.
Oh, nope. You're lower on the list, but you better get in now, or else you're going to be the poorest of the poor. So there's the urgency factor. And that would cause people to, like, if they believe that this was what we're all moving to, that cause people to go in like crazy. All right. There's my thought.
That's the first step. I think you're onto something with that. And then the second step right after that will be quantum computing. That is the biggest threat to cryptocurrency right now, because I think it's like 2032 or something like that, quantum computers will be able to crack any code for cryptocurrency, period. That any code that we have now. And so the other push will be, not only do you need to get in now because this is where we're moving, but you have to get in before quantum computing becomes smart enough to do this, because it's going to take everything that you own. So it's going to be this massive push towards that. Like I've got a couple articles pulled up on quantum computers and what they're trying to.
No, I've heard about quantum computing. It's very complicated. Somebody please Google it and read about it. But it is crazy though, because it's like, if that is something that we are able to end up doing, it's essentially like a faster computer than, so much faster than anything that you can imagine. So much faster than anything that we have right now. Would the human biometric stuff prevent that from being like, so if it's connected to your own human body, then it would be, there's like a level of defense there where it's like the quantum computers can't hack all my stuff and steal all my money, because it's based with my DNA, and so it's not that they have access to my body, so they can't like hack in and take it. So
unless you have the Neuralink, then I don't know how that would work. But
well, what if you were a cold
remote
storage?
access?
what if you were a cold storage? What if the Neuralink wasn't attached to the internet and instead it was cold storage, and you literally had to take a chip out of a computer, physically put it in, and then transfer the data, then put it back in, and you became like a briefcase full of cash, basically. Like,
yeah. And that's where the decentralized internet comes into play, which is Web3. And you are going to be your own bank. They mean that quite literally with this stuff. So basically, you will be the central source for all of your assets. And I don't know if Neuralink is going to play well with that or not. But I think that ultimately, here's what it comes down to from my perspective is that not great, but one of the important tenets of Satanism is being your own God. And so if you are your own God, you are your own everything. You have access to all of it. And then you have eternal life via this technology. You have achieved ultimate ascension at that point. And one of the symbol for the Neuralink, I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. It's the infinity symbol. It's a play on that. Which is also the Ouroboros, which is the snake eating its own tail. It is this idea of eternity, never ending. There's more thoughts behind that too, but that's like the surface of it. There's a lot more suggested in this idea of eternity, but that's what Neuralink is promising.
Oh, you're talking about the symbol right there? It does kind of look like a...
Which is pointing back to the episode I did the other day on Bill Gates. So if y'all haven't seen that one, it has a lot to do with the infinity symbol.
Yeah.
Turn sideways.
Hey, so I've heard, Doug, I don't know how this fits in. I don't know, Troy, if you're going to say something, I can say this quick.
Go ahead.
I don't know if I've heard about that, hey, they're doing deep fakes and AI calls and all this kind of stuff now. And it makes it sound like somebody's daughter's calling desperate, and even video and all kinds of stuff, just crazy. And they're saying, the only way you'll know it's truly the person is if they're connected to the blockchain through an eyeball scan or whatever. And then it's using blockchain technology. So
or
does that
biometrics.
fit into this? Yeah. Does that fit into this at all? Or how does that fit in?
Absolutely. We are going to have a biometric scan that puts a little check mark next to a video, next to a post, next to anything.
We've also been conditioned to.
This really came from that person. Yes. This person actually uploaded this. This person actually said
verify that the person that you think you're looking at or talking with
is actually them. Yep.
Is actually them, or even a video of somebody potentially. I mean, I don't know. Yep. I don't know with it being recorded and all that, because you can always edit things, but there could be something there as well, because it's like this is something to try to verify. Like, this is actually was filming President Trump, and it's not just an AI deep fake of President Trump making this announcement to the world, that kind of thing. That's crazy. But I could see you see why you feel like we need this. Like we're getting to the point where like we're pushing to where we need the sort of hacking into people's DNA or hacking into their biometrics in a way that just to verify that you are actually the person that you say you are, which is weird because the Bible talks about like this kind of great deception in different ways that's occurring, and that's what we're seeing is like it's getting easier and easier to deceive people, and we need a sense of security of like I am actually the things I'm seeing and doing are actually real, and it's not just like AI generated. And so that something that accesses your DNA would allow you to have that sense of security of like, this is actually real. That's really bizarre to think about it that way, but it does seem like we're moving that direction.
Yeah. They figured out how to successfully make one person on a live stream look and sound completely like somebody else and fool people. Like a live stream video and one person saying it, but it looks and sounds like somebody else. And it's like, you can't tell the difference. And that's just insane. Like how far we've gone. I do want to say this though. I know we're getting close to the end of the episode, but I want to say this for all the Christians out there. Breathe a sigh of relief, because God is good. And Jesus has already fixed our biggest problem at the cross. And if this is stressing you out, go spend some time reading the Bible, go for a walk, enjoy the sunshine, enjoy the cool air if you have it. And spend some time with the Lord, because God will remind you like, hey, it's okay. God is in control. He's good. and we honestly don't have anything to worry about. And I'm not saying that in the sense that like nothing bad is going to happen, right? Revelation, I believe some of these things are going to happen, right? But ultimately, Paul said our current suffering is not even worthy to be compared with the glory that's going to be revealed to us. So God's sovereignty is over everything. And we can remind ourselves and let the Holy Spirit remind us that as long as I'm part of God's plan and I'm walking in his will for my life, and that doesn't mean I'm perfect, but I'm trusting in Jesus as my savior, and I'm walking with him, then ultimately God is going to even take the things that were meant for evil and use them for good in my life. And this is not something to be afraid of, and it's not something that should wreck our nervous systems. But if it is, we need to go back into the Word and we need to spend some time with the Lord, because He wants to remind us of how good He is. But also, it's like it is something that God can use, I think, to prepare certain people for certain things. But also, I think in the last days, Christians are just going to be doing very innovative things, and in some cases, I think God is going to set us up for success. And now I could be wrong about that. I may be way off on that, but that's the perspective I tend to take after looking in the scripture and seeing example after example of things like Joseph going into Egypt and preparing a way for God's people to be in Goshen during the time of famine, things like that. God delivering the people out of Egypt, like all these different times where God stepped in and he performed miracles. So I'm not worried about it. You shouldn't be worried about it either. It's okay to be informed about it, but that would be my point. That I would stress that is if you ever get overwhelmed with this kind of stuff, let the Lord give you the peace that surpasses understanding. Put your trust back in Him and what Jesus did, and you're going to be okay.
Agreed.
It's good stuff.
Well said.
It's good stuff.
Any final thoughts before we finish?
This might be a little off, but I just wanted to share because I mentioned it several times. The possibility of the Roman Emperor Nero, possibly his name means 666, and why some people strongly believe that. So this is just one of those funny things that we don't do anymore. But back in the day, they would do gematria in different languages. In fact, they did it in Latin, they did it in Greek, and they did it in Hebrew. And in fact, there's a wall in Pompeii that has a love note written on it. This is like from around this time, and the inscription says, "I love the girl whose number is 545." And what that is that's a secret note where this person is writing. They're taking their crush's name and they're taking the letters of her name and they're turning them into numbers and adding them together and making the number of her name, which is 545. And so that, just so y'all know, that phrase there in where it says this is the number of a man, that's close enough to the way that they would describe gematria or whatever they call it, where you add somebody's letters together and you get a number. So how does that connect to Nero? Well, it's kind of funny because some people might be aware of this. I had forgotten about this, but there are certain manuscripts of Revelation that do not write the number as 666. There's some manuscripts, most of them are 666, which is why that's usually translated as 666, but some write the number as 616. And these are early manuscripts. These aren't like way later manuscripts. So there's a little difference there, a tweak there. Well, what's funny is if you take basically Emperor Nero, you can write his name either in Greek or in Latin, which was common back then. And if you transliterate his name from Greek to Hebrew for German gematria, you get 666. If you take his Latin name, which is just a little bit different, then you get 616. And so that's why
Got it covered.
So it's covered, right? Because so people have been like, well, why is the manuscripts two different things? I know I'm not saying, and so some people will look at that and say, well, all of Revelation had to do with the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD, and Nero was the guy. He was the guy. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's just one of the many interesting connections I think that is in the book of Revelation to the things that were going on at the time, because he was the emperor of the time when the invasion of Judea happened and they destroyed Jerusalem in 70 AD. And there are people that have connected a lot of the things that happened during that time to kind of specific signs and things that happened in Revelation, and also some prophecies of Jesus where he was like, hey, Jerusalem's going to get trampled for this period of time. And when you see these signs happen, run to the mountains. Well, the Christians at the time, they literally did that, where they recognized that Jerusalem was going to be destroyed by Rome, and the Christians literally fled to a mountainous region to hide. And so there's some really cool connections.
I've read like some of the early church fathers that wrote, you know, like were writing letters to the other churches and stuff. And there are records of people in the early Christian church getting dreams and visions and prophecies about the coming destruction and literally saying, you need to leave. And there's even evidence that somebody gave Peter, Apostle Peter, and this is from early church writings, a prophecy saying it's going to get destroyed. And Peter's response was, I know, God told me to stay, you know, like I'm supposed to be here. And that many people think that that's when he, you know, when he died was he essentially got caught in the mix or whatever and was there. And so, yeah, crazy stuff.
One final thing I would say is that, you know, just to add to what Troy said, is that God, none of this is taking God by surprise. He knows exactly what's coming, and that's why we need to be connected to him through Christ and be led and Spirit led every day. But, you know, I would say God has a way of, you know, things have a way of manifesting in a way that's different than what we are expecting. And so, yeah, we may think we have some of this figured out, but we may not have any of it figured out. And there may be some total switch that is coming that we have not even talked about yet. So, you know, we got to stay tuned. That's why you got to keep the Holy Spirit in you, and you got to stay tuned to Filibusted and get informed.
Those two things are not on the same level, right?
No, I did not mean that. Yeah, Holy Spirit. All right. And if you got time, check in with Filibusted.
Yeah,
there you go. That's
Doug.
good.
Any closing thoughts?
No, I think that's all good stuff.
All right. Well, thank y'all for joining us, and y'all share this episode if you enjoyed it, and we will see you next time. Gold is not just a backup plan if the world falls apart. It's an investment opportunity that could set you up for generations. There's never really a bad time to invest in gold, but you want to make sure you have the right guide, and that is where Genesis Gold Group shines. Whether you are a first-time buyer or a seasoned investor, their trusted expertise and competitive pricing makes them an easy choice. They offer tangible assets in case of emergencies, but they can also design the perfect IRA just for you. And they'll even cut through all that confusing red tape from the IRS. We at Filibusted love the genius design of the Prepper Bar, which breaks up into sections like a chocolate bar. But if you prefer a more high-security insured gold storage, they have that too. And unlike Fort Knox, the gold is actually there and 100% owned by you. Genesis Gold Group is a safe, simple, and convenient way to invest. Visit filibustedgold.com today for your free investment guide from Genesis Gold Group.